Well, as you can see, we've got some new tech. We've got a mic that works, and we've got some sort of little image at the start. It's growing all the time. Look, I don't really mind how unprofessional it seems at time, but it'll grow, as I said. And, you know, we're going to make a start and we're going to keep going. Um, Before we get to the pattern breaking thing, I just want to talk about, I've always been blessed with the routine or lack of it in my life. It's like the oversoul's always been looking out for me, and it's recently after this COVID fiasco that, it just went bingo. And I woke up, especially after listening to Jason, as lots of us have. Jason Archaics, you can't put him on a pedestal enough. A lot of people do it, but it's got a lot of people moving, and I'm really thankful. So, during my life, I've never felt comfortable in a routine. Every time I've never adopted a company. When I've worked for big companies, it's been because I enjoyed the lifestyle. I enjoyed going out and partying, or actually looking forward to seeing the people at work, and it was like money for jam. When I went to uni in my indoctrination process, I did astronomy and chemistry, as you know, but it's helped me because I get to look and get to comment, and people take note because it's what I studied. And we're all globers one stage, and moving on to the flat earth thing, as we've talked about, again, it's all irrelevant, it's all a psyop, but you get to look at it through different eyes. And I call it like the retirement conspiracy. The deep state, or whatever you want to call them, the elites, they make it so it's only just manageable. You get to a point where you work all day, you haven't got enough energy to research at night, you haven't got anything for open learning, for open thought. And this is after they've tried to program you through your whole 12 years of existence in an education system. It's we all know the pitfalls of that, and I was never taken by that. I was never a driver for standardized testing. I doing my HSC, which is a year 12 level here. It didn't matter to me. I always knew that things were going to turn out, and I think that's half the battle. Understanding that things are going to turn out, and knowing and doing things fearlessly. And so onto the pattern break. It's important to be free of the collective and the hive mindset. It's mentally draining, and I now through learning through all of this, I see it consciously. If I'm trying to be dragged into a routine, I feel it. I understand that I need to pattern break out of it, to a point like you see memes and you think, to pattern break today, I'm going to actually not pattern break. That'll stuff it. But it's fantastic, and I don't see how the oversoul or construct or demiurge, all of them can see what I'm going to do each day, because I don't really know myself. I wake up and every day's different. It might be coffee one morning and look at Telegram. It might be get straight up, go for a run. It's I'm not locked into a full-time job where a boss is looking over my shoulder. I wrote a book a number of years ago, and I sold that book around the country, took the kids when they were a few months old, and we did a year's lap or close to it around Australia, did 54,000 Ks, left with $300 in the bank. Everything only, all our stuff in storage, and we just took off. Now, we could have had to turn around when we got to Byron Bay, but no, we kept going, and we ended up going for months and months and months, and came back with a few thousand profit. And that's the way it goes, no fear. And that's what this channel's about, not having fear, finding out who we are. And so looking now, and so I've always been in the mindset of not being locked down, not being routined, and because it gets boring and frustrating. But now I can feel it consciously, as I said, and it's all about changing your reality, and changing your reality tunnel on a constant basis. If we're always constructing, and we're always building new things come into our lives through synchronicities. And if you're always projecting out what you want and moving your avatar in that direction, things come up that you wouldn't believe. It's actually working, and that's what this journey's about. Like I said, I could have sat and tried to get all this equipment first and everything like that, but I thought I've just got to start. It's about not just the journey of one person. I hate that terminology. It's about bringing everyone in on your experience so they can see that this is actually working. And so I've thought of just, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of examples of how I've projected out something, and bam, it's come into my life. And and it's about having trust to begin with, and having this trust with the oversoul, and it's going to do that, as Jason talks about. But once you pass that stage and you start seeing it working, it's all reinforced all the time. And so I thought I'd just give you one or two examples. Firstly, when I retire, when my kids leave home, they want to go out and do au pair. They're over the indoctrination crap. They want to go and work in Rome first, and explore the earth. And I love it. It gives me an excuse to go over and visit in Italy. I've been to Italy a couple of times. I love it. And that's where they're starting, and I can't wait for them to get there and enjoy their lives to the max. But after that, I wanted to just travel around Australia in a bus with my wife and just discover Australia's hidden history. All the areas that we can find that we've been lied to, starting at Sydney and looking at all those structures that are in there, like, come on, the Queen Victoria building, as if we'd build Sydney Uni straight up, and windmills, for goodness sake. The Tartaria and the stuff in Sydney is just mind-boggling. We couldn't build that today. And once you see it with the roads coming halfway up windows and the whole shebang to do with that, we want to explore that. We want to go to Lake Mungo. We want to go to Gosford Glyphs. We want to find everything. And importantly, I want to track down, and I'm starting to learn about ley lines and spiritual areas like Uluru and the lodestone in there, and find a sort of spiritual and magnetic pulse that emanates out of this earth, and get in touch with it, and just enjoy nature with no time frame, because time frame is a ridiculous concept, and that shouldn't be adhered to, but they try and force it, and it's very hard to avoid that at some stage. But the bus, I projected out one night as I was going to sleep. Well, we're in a simulation. I want to find ways to get this bus. I know I'm going to have this bus. Somehow I'm going to have the money for this bus, and I have faith that this bus will come. And anyway, the next day I woke up, first street out selling books. What I do is I just knock on doors and say, hey, do you want to buy a book? And people do, 1 in 5, and you get chatting, and you red pill people along the way, and you enjoy the conversation, and the construct doesn't know what you're doing next, and you're just floating around. It's brilliant. I love it. And first street, at the end of the street, I knocked on a door, and there was a couple of minibuses out the front, and ended up talking to this family, and they sell them for a living. This is what they do though in their retirement. They restore old buses and sell them to people, fully decked out, aircons, to retirement villages, on retirement homes on the road. Not that we'll ever retire, not that I'll ever feel old. As you probably worked out, I'm a pretty hypo type of guy. And that's just an example. At the end of the street, that day, there was the bus, there was the source, there was reliable contact with all the ins and outs and what to do with them. Now, the other thing is, I tapped into a place on Telegram called Errance University, and it's fantastic. There are people on there who just dedicate their time and understanding. They have patience, and they're so learned. The knowledge that they have in all the different subject areas, whether it be Sophia, whether it be pattern breaking, whether it be anything, whether it be to do with the Demiurge, Giza, the Oversoul, how to move on spiritually, whether it be anything. These people are actually amazing and been studying and looking at this stuff for years. And I projected out after just starting this, I want to find a contact in here that somehow supplies some unknown spark of that triggers my intuition, that gets me going in a different track that I didn't know. And funny enough, 2 weeks after that, I bumped into a guy on there called Agni. And we were away down south just boogie boarding and looking at different historical sites and stuff down there in the school holidays. Yes, my kids go to school, but it's if they could go back in time after our Canberra adventure and epic and staying with 500,000 truthers in tents and things, I wish I'd homeschooled them from the beginning, but they were at the end. They have their friends, and that's the way it rolls. But Agni, he was he just voice messaged one day, which I'm not that used to, and I woke up to that message, and I just felt immediately this man is such a spiritual dude, and had something so much to offer. So I messaged him, and I didn't message anyone personally, except one of the admins or and at all. And but I messaged him, and I've even sent voice messages to him in the last couple of days and week, and I never do that. But this man, he showed me how it what is to actually live, not to live in the moment and that type of thing, but how to embrace so we can understand. My biggest thing was I was thinking about how do we learn who we are, who we were in past avatar lives, and looking for ways, whether it be ether, whether it be in understanding that we keep when we travel out of this and we exit us out of this construct and this simulation. But he made me think about this video game analogy, and I'm going to get to that in a minute because I wanted to bring in new material of my own, and I found it, and that was another projection that I sent out, and it came. And so that is what I've got to share with you today. The what happened was yesterday I said, right, I need new material for this. I've gone out and bought a mic. I want something a bit different. I've got my little program hooked up with a screen to start, which is very primitive, but I thought I'm going to go on a run. I'm going to go on a swim, and during that time, it's going to come to me. And it did. What happened was during the run, I thought, right, this channel being about interpretation and who we are, I thought about what I was going to say. And after mentioning to Agni it wouldn't be possible and it all comes into play, I have this thing where when I used to play video games or listen to music, you zone out and you get in this zone of understanding where you can play the game and you're infallible. You're indestructible. You're making moves and doing things in that game that if you were concentrating on, you wouldn't be able to do. And listening to pieces of music, sometimes if you're trying to think of what the words are next or the lyrics, they don't come to you. You sort of have a bit of a mind block. But when you forget about trying to remember, the words come to you. And it's and so somewhere in the ether, somewhere out there, there is this knowledge that we just need to tap into and be able to tap into. And then I started thinking about when playing these games, in the past, it used to be like this white halo comes over you. The world's blocked out, and you're just involved in the game. It's just happening, as life should be. Let it just happen, and this understanding just channels into your brain. And you could be playing, people could be talking to you, you're answering them, you're multitasking, you might even reach down and drop, after you've dropped the biscuit, pick up the biscuit, keep playing, and your character's still going. And it's not coming from your ability, it's coming from this ability that you didn't know you have. And this is what Jason talks about as well, tapping into this source of power that is not part of us. We are not the solution to everything. There are things out there to help us, like the Oversoul. Somehow the Oversoul gives us this ability, and we just need to know how to access it. And from that, this beautiful man, Agni, I keep in contact with him now. I reckon we'll be friends for life. And I never say that because, I've had a million friends and acquaintances, and the whole COVID fiasco makes you realise that they weren't friends at all, that there was no understanding or anything like that. But some people you just exist with, and some people you enjoy sharing things with. And I've enjoyed sharing things with people for a long time. And I actually look forward to his messages and getting insight, and not that I know he wants me to ask him for insight, but at the same time, he's through cryptic messages, I'm understanding much more about so many things. And so within this site that I was talking about, I started helping people with a few questions they had on chemistry and to do with silicon and salicylic acid and salicylic acid and things like that. And funny enough, that structure, and we use silicon for for information storage. And there's the old whole debate about whether there's silicon life before us, and the silicon in trees, and whether that was petrified in different nemesis fossilization events or phoenix, or whether it's taken them in from the soil in the course of its life. But there was definitely a lot of silicon out there, and the silicic acid structure, it's shaped like a swastika, and it's an acid, it's a proton donor. And anyway, I was helping these people through chemistry, and then I started thinking about orbitals and how it worked, because the conversation went on to music, and is it a bit like music? And yes, the periodic table works like music. As you move along a row, you get to 8, and then you reach a noble state, which is the noble gas configuration of 8, and it's happy. It's like your octaves in music. And so to excite each electron to different levels requires them to jump up different quantum states to different levels. And I thought maybe that's a bit like us. Maybe we have to go up, and we can't exist in any medium in between. So if we get to a point where we haven't achieved the right thing, did we get it? Did our avatar improve? Did our soul improve enough to get to the next orbital, to get to the next energy level? No. If not, we might relax back like in a flame test or fireworks, where if you emit light of different energy, if you emit low energy light, it will collapse in a red, which is not so good. But if you get to a violet or a blue type level and it collapses, you get a blue light with more energy, and it's all about vibration, and it's all about frequency. And maybe when you get to a certain level, you achieve that noble state of, or a happy configuration, or a happy vibrational level, and we're allowed to go on to the next stage. When our avatars die, which isn't really death, we're immortal souls, just passing through and learning. And when we get to that different energy level, we're satisfied. It's happy. The oversoul's happy, and lets us progress to the next thing. And if we don't, we pass our lessons on to the next one. We might not be able to pass on all that we want to know. We might not get the full memory of that. But again, I'm sure that's out there, because there are kids who are fully born and young, and talking about the lives that they had as older people. They describe situations that they were in a past life. And if that's true for one, it's true for all. And we just need to understand that what we need is out there. It just requires no fear, plodding along, no time limits, and enjoy the zone that we can get in when nothing else matters. And once you start developing your mind to start thinking about this thing, I thought about how it was as I was a kid, and I used to lie in bed, and I used to think, I've done this before. I've been here before. And things used to sort of overlap in a crazy sort of way. And as you get older, that sort of disappears. But that's a whole nother topic. But quite often in my life, it's come up in my mind about how I used to think like that, and having this thought of just knowing that there was me again somewhere. Now, I'm sure the audience here, if you're here, won't think that is weird at all, but having the idea that you are here somewhere else, and you've experienced this before, and it's all starting to make a bit more sense. Now, we know there are false gods out there, like your Yahwehs and your AIX and your Demiurge and everything trying to stop us. But we've got to continue. We've got to continue to create, develop this relationship with the Oversoul. And I can't stress enough, it's actually working for me. And so examples in the future I will bring up. The Oversoul wants us to attain our octets. It wants us to get to noble and conscious levels where we won't drop back down and go back to levels that we were before. And it's a very unusual paradox, because I'm finding that it's a mixture of having so much trust that it will happen, that you project the thought out there and move on knowing it's going to come. But at the same time, you have to be consciously aware and absorb when you're falling out of, and you're not pattern breaking, or you're not moving your avatar in the direction that you want it to go. So it's sort of a conscious reminder. It's a way that you have to sort of find this equilibrium balance of where you're over, where you're heading, and what you've projected out. And it's a bit difficult to describe, but hopefully you get the gist. So our lives are like a Genesis in the Bible, a rebirth after a reset. We're born, and we're trying to make an exodus. And the exodus is errant souls progressing to the next level of consciousness, the next construct to build. Because if our existence is not finite, if it's infinite, then, and there are more constructs, they need to be filled. The oversoul doesn't want to hold us back. It's going to do everything to help us progress. It needs inhabitants in a different world, in a better world, in a higher energy world. And so again, I want this channel to involve, and I'd love comments to figure out and put input into how we can do this, and thoughts on what we're actually talking about. And I'm sure it is all eliminating fear. So if our platform here is linear, our time is linear, and perpendicular to that is a whole different existence, then out there is a spiritual world. And so the thought came to me that after hearing many people and Jason talking about, if we're on the outside looking in and we're watching our avatar play this video game, going back to the video game analogy, it's like if you were having a game of Crash Bandicoot, for example, then as a person, as an avatar here with a divine light inside of us, and we're enjoying that game, then you might go through one corner and be swallowed by a flower, fall off a cliff, and that avatar may die, but it lives on. And the same would be as us looking in from outside the construct. We're looking at something that would be very instantaneous to that divine light out there, looking at our avatar playing this game, which to us seems like it would be a crazy amount of time, and infinite recycles, like starting a new man, and getting extra lives, and the whole scenario of gameplay. And out there it would be quite a ridiculously short time frame. So there's nothing to fear. The real us is not here. The real us is out there looking in, enjoying watching the progress. And it would be happier. The real self would be happier looking at you progress in this scenario, in this sim, better. You know? So we need higher levels of consciousness. We get this from our imagination, from our empathy and understanding. If we didn't understand that when our avatar dies here, we just get another game, and it's like our firework being lit prematurely, for example, and emitting a light that we're not quite used to, we'll try better next time. There is no fear. There's nothing to work. Everything in the visible is, well, it's really pathetic. Our senses give us so much material appreciation. And I'm not saying the appreciation of nature is bad. I'm saying that there are things outside of the material. There are things outside the visible. Our electromagnetic spectrum, our whole energy and vibration outside what we see as visible is immense and endless. So another thought crossed my mind. What if in past lives or in past avatars we weren't able to see the visible that we're even seeing now? We might have been down in the radio wave spectrum to start with, before being able to move up and get shorter wavelengths with more energy, because you understand as the electromagnetic spectrum progresses, radio waves can be like the length of the Empire State Building. And then as you gradually get shorter in wavelength, you get more energy, more cycles per second. So maybe in past avatars we saw things totally different. Now you see images of what it would be like to ascend, what it would be like to see divine light, and people have experienced it and tried to talk about it. So maybe once we get this one right, we move out of the visible spectrum into we've past the infrared, we've gone into the visible, 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers, and then we go into the ultraviolet, higher energy. And maybe we can see things like Neo see things, like when he sees and when he's like realized he's an anomaly, as we are, and he sees people with different light and sees things differently, and maybe we are moving into different constructs where the whole thing of what we take into our senses are different. And again, I can't wait to see this next spiritual realm. I'm I'm more than loving this one, enjoying every experience. And if something can be more fantastical than seeing the look in my wife's eyes when she smiles, when she's enjoying a moment, when she does her crazy things, and spending time at the table, traveling, or seeing my kids develop, and seeing how beautiful they are and how excited they are about life, then what's left ahead of us must be surely amazing. And if they call this hell, bring it on. I love it. If heaven's what happens when we die, I'm looking forward to that too. And I'm just trying not to be as blind to all the things that we've been made blind to through our programming and everything like that, and what's been hidden from us, and how we've been held down. And I'm loving this journey, and I'm really hoping that people get on board, share this video, subscribe, pass it to friends, get in on the discussion. I want to learn the tech to make some podcasts and do some different things and do some lives, and but most of all, keep it real, and just hopefully get people red pilling in a different way, like get people sparked into their consciousness that we can discuss this stuff in with patience and understanding, like I've been shown. And even though I might not make a lot of sense sometimes, and especially to those just starting this type of journey, and even those who are far more advanced than I, that I'm loving it. Get on board, and let's just enjoy this process together. It's been fantastic. We do that with no fear. We do that through pattern breaking. Let's understand who we are by understanding what others believe they are, and learn. Learning's great. Thanks very much. Peace out. Enjoy, and I'll see you next time.